most of them have lost their faith. They talk about God because it's a good talking point. I like to thank God for all of these things, but they never identify, a God is anything that you worship.
I thank God for my family, my wonderful husband.
What's up with all this talk about Beyonce and the Illuminati, and what are those rumors?
Everybody who works hard, looks inside themselves, finds strength, creates something special.
Okay.
You've probably seen the clips by now from Terrence Howard's interview with Patrick Bet-David. In that conversation, Terrence said that back when Destiny's Child was still active, he had a chance to date Beyonce. But in his version of events, he passed because he was more interested in her group member Farrah Franklin. That one comment instantly got people talking again, not just because it involved Beyonce, but because Terrence said it so casually, like he was just recalling a moment from the past instead of trying to create drama in the present. Do you believe his version?
See, with Beyonce, you see these couples where it's like,
I had a chance to date Beyonce, early on, and we had a conversation, and I ended up talking to the other girl inside of, Destiny, the girl with the blue eyes. And I remember Beyonce looking over at me, and I think that's why she picked me to do that dance when she did the kind of striptease dance that we did at the BETs or whatever, to show me what I had lost.
The moment Terrence was referring to was that 2005 BET Awards performance, when Beyonce brought him on stage during Cater to You, sat him down, and gave him a full performance right in front of the crowd. The second he brought up Beyonce's name, the backlash kicked in fast. Fans flooded comment sections, called him a liar, said he was clout chasing, and acted like even mentioning her was some kind of offense. But if you watch the full interview instead of the clip version, Terrence does not come across like he is bragging. He sounds like someone answering a question and telling the story the way he remembers it. Still, for some fans, that does not matter. The second Beyonce's name comes up, all nuance disappears. What makes it more interesting is that the blogs mostly stayed locked on the dating comment and ignored the bigger point Terrence was making about the industry itself. In that same interview, he talked about faith, power, and how a lot of people in entertainment publicly say God without ever making clear what they actually mean by it. His argument was that many celebrities use the language of faith because it plays well publicly, especially in speeches and interviews. But that does not necessarily mean they all believe in the same thing. In his view, God can become a stand-in for whatever someone truly worships: fame, money, status, control, or self. Was the backlash over the top?
That dance Terrence mentioned happened at the 2005 BET Awards when Beyoncé performed Cater to You and decided to pull Terrence up on stage, sit him down, and do a whole dance right in front of him. Or something even darker.
Most of them have lost their faith. They talk about God because it's a good talking point. I like to thank God for all of these things, but they never identify, a God is anything that you worship. Some people's God is money because they do anything for it. They'll sacrifice themselves, they'll sacrifice their children. Some people's God is lust, and they're willing to sacrifice all of that. A God is something that you would trade everything for, or you turn to. Most of them has had to trade in a lot of their beliefs and the things they hold precious to themselves because they're to get into that place, to get into that.
And that brings the conversation right back to Beyonce and Jay-Z. They have both thanked God many times in public, especially during award speeches. But if you follow Terrence's line of thinking, the real question becomes simple. When celebrities say God, what exactly are they talking about?
And all the universe for conspiring and putting that beautiful light of a young lady in my life.
That is also why people keep bringing up Kanye, because he once suggested that speaking about God in a general way is accepted in the industry, while directly mentioning Jesus Christ can become a problem. Some online commentators even point to claims about Roc Nation contracts and use that to argue there is a difference between vague spirituality and explicit Christianity.
There's a part in a Roc Nation contract that says that people are not allowed to sing about Christ. Yeah. So I'll be wondering, I'll be like, yo, God, why? Why have you swung my sword? Yeah. Why?
And that is where some people say the whole thing stops feeling random. You can publicly thank some undefined higher power, but once the conversation gets specific, the tone changes. That is the argument critics keep making. And whether you agree with it or not, it helps explain why Terrence Howard's comments landed the way they did. He has been around major names for years, and in his telling, he has watched how belief, image, and influence get packaged in Hollywood. From there, critics start connecting it to Beyoncé and Jay-Z's public imagery. They point to recurring symbols, the all-seeing eye references, the hand signs, Jay-Z calling himself Jehovah, and moments like the Grammys performance that people said echoed The Last Supper. Some of that may be performance art. Some of it may be branding. But for people already suspicious of the industry, those visuals do not feel accidental. The same thing happened when Black is King came out on Disney Plus in 2020. A lot of viewers praised the visuals and the cultural references, while others fixated on images they believed looked more occult than artistic. Some pastors even weighed in and said certain horned visuals looked less like African symbolism and more like imagery linked in pop culture to Baphomet. That is where the conversation gets darker, because once that symbol enters the discussion, people begin tying it to the old Hollywood rumor cycle about rituals, elite circles, and power. Then you have public figures like Cat Williams adding fuel by saying, ritual talk in the industry should not be dismissed so quickly. That does not prove anything on its own, but it does show why certain audiences keep revisiting the same names, the same symbols, and the same questions every time these clips resurface. Coincidence or pattern to you?
You don't care how people feel about the ritual. It's about, does following the ritual work? And so you can fool yourself into thinking there isn't one, but the evidence will be clear. I knew that in the ritual of Baphomet, the transgender, to show allegiance to him, you had to kiss his ass ring.
Interview 6. And when people talk about Beyoncé, they are not just talking about success anymore. They talk about the level of devotion around her. Not just admiration, but full-on loyalty that can look almost untouchable from the outside. That is why critics always point to the Beehive. The reaction is often immediate, aggressive, and personal, anytime someone says something even slightly negative. Then came the Christmas 2024 NFL halftime performance in Houston, and online discussions started all over again. People pointed to hand signs, the horn-like medallion, and the same kind of imagery that has followed her and Jay-Z for years. But for some critics, it goes beyond symbols. They point to former associates who later made disturbing claims. One of the names that gets brought up is MIA, who said she felt pressured in that world and described experiences she framed as dark and unsettling, including imagery involving blood, black substances, and horn styling. Those are serious allegations, and they remain allegations, but when you combine those claims with the symbolism fans keep spotting, that is why the conversation never fully dies. Do symbols ever mean anything?
Met Jay-Z and I signed to Roc Nation, the first thing he told me to do is get plastic surgery. I'm not insecure because I would have got plastic surgery. People make it, they all can turn around and thank Beyonce because that's it. And enough is enough. Can come in for everyone now. And even Adele, when she gets an award, she thanks Beyonce. Oh, I didn't want to drip myself in blood and cover myself and swim in goop, in black goop, and fucking like wear devil horns to fucking sell a record. Fuck that. Or be a witch, or be that, all of that. Fuck all of that.
Now, to be fair, none of this proves every rumor people repeat online. But when the same names, images, and accusations keep showing up, that is why some viewers believe there is more going on behind the scenes than the public sees. For years, Beyoncé and Jay-Z have been described by critics not just as stars, but as part of a larger power structure in entertainment. People online have tied Jay-Z to leaked files, resurfaced old corporate emails, and revived theories that certain celebrities are used to keep the public distracted rather than informed. Then there are fan interpretations of songs like J. Cole's She Knows, where some listeners became convinced he was hinting at darker industry secrets. From there, the speculation gets even heavier. Some people look at the deaths of stars like Aaliyah, Michael Jackson, Left Eye, Prince, and Whitney Houston, then look at Beyoncé's rise during those same years, and start building theories around timing, power, and protection. To be clear, that does not prove Beyoncé had anything to do with those losses, but it does show how quickly people connect tragedy, success, and silence in this industry. That is also why Terrence Howard gets folded back into the story. In his own framing, he did not fully play along, did not stay close to that world, and never became as untouchable as some of the people around him. Meanwhile, Beyoncé and Jay-Z remain among the most powerful names in entertainment despite years of rumors, criticism, and scrutiny over the company they kept. So that leaves the bigger question hanging there. If Terrence is right that many people in that world talk about God without meaning what the public assumes, then what are they actually serving? And when he says he stepped away from Beyoncé early, was that just preference or was it instinct? That is the part people keep debating, because once you strip away the Stan Wars and the headlines, what remains is a deeper argument about discernment, image, and what success in that world may really cost. Too many dots to ignore?